Grab a drink, a joint, or maybe just your chair. It's time for Business After Hours with Summer Thorne and Claire Tinkler.
I really like the color of your lipstick, Claire.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it does. I just made me some tea. I did smoke a little weed. What's new, right? So yeah, I guess how do y'all want to do it? Y'all just want to shoot from the hip and start go and
I'm down for that.
Yeah.
I love being the guinea pig.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I guess that's another part of being a business owner is you gotta do a little bit of everything all the time. What would y'all say is the percentage of time that you work in a week that you actually devote to like work?
Like your own business work?
Like
Yeah.
for work, like only people stuff.
Oh, yeah. Over the last couple of months, I've made it a goal to be more efficient because I run social media accounts, and that's, as you guys know, very distracting. Just trying to shave off the time that is not actually working, just being distracted and having things flying in and out or opening up your laptop, being on there for 30 minutes and then realizing that you're nowhere near what you were there to do, like check
Yeah.
email.
Yes. I get that all the time.
Yeah. So I'm trying to right now the focus is to try to shave off that time, be more efficient so that I can do a time block for working on client work and then also have time blocks to work on high reverie. And that way I can start to shift the percentage of time that I spend on client work versus high reverie because that's high reverie is paying me also. So I got to do that work.
Yeah. And that's what I struggle with is not feeling guilty for working on the business. I feel like that's one of the biggest things I struggle with. Do y'all struggle with that? Or am I crazy? I know I'm crazy, but
No, yeah. I would say you were asking about like percentage of time, probably
yeah.
10 to 20%. Like the rest of it is all overhead. It's all like marketing and business development and training people and
Yeah.
um, trying to systematize things. So yeah, like not even that much time goes into the value add or like servicing clients. And then there's
Yeah.
like research, like researching software and like getting off track or task switching. I have found though in our carbon software, there's a timer. And so if I have a timer going, for some reason, that helps me stay on task. I don't know why. It just, if I have the timer going, I'm very aware of what I'm doing.
There's
Yeah.
this really cool app. It's a co-working community that I just joined. It's called Groove.
Yeah. I
And
heard
it's
about
so cool. It's like it's a app you download and then you go into this room. It puts you into a room with other coworkers. And then you go into this room, you introduce yourself, you talk about what you're going to be working on for the next hour, and everybody cheers you on. And then you go into your own space. It has a countdown timer, and then you just work on that until the timer's up. And then you go back into the room with these people, and then you talk about did you accomplish it? Sometimes people wanna see what you worked on. And yeah, so it's really cool. And then if you can keep going, you can keep grooving hour after hour. It's cool because some people like me, I'm like, okay, I mainly use it for when I'm working on social media for my clients. I was in a room with this one guy and he was like, I'm going to take a nap. He had a big event that evening. And so he's like, I got to make time to take a nap because otherwise I'm
Yeah.
not going to garbage tonight.
Yeah. I think I remember you mentioning that when we were at
yeah, I
dinner.
remember you had telling us about it. And what was it called again?
Groove, GROVE.oo something. I don't know.
Okay.
I'll send you guys a link.
Okay, yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
that
We'll have to
sounds
put the link on there.
yeah, so thank you so much, Cindy, for doing this with us today. And Summer, I can't believe we're actually doing this.
I know. First episode.
Yeah, and your hair looks really good, Cindy, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. I like the bangs.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a rough couple of months and the kind that you end up with bangs at the end. It's happened a few times over the last few years. This particular time, I'm actually happy. I actually YouTubed. I did it myself.
Did you? It looks good. It looks amazing.
I
Yeah.
There's a
YouTube
bold
like
move.
how to cut your own bangs, and then I did it, and I actually didn't immediately regret it.
Yeah, it looks really good. And it looks good for the season too. Okay. Cindy, do you have anything that you want to talk about to start or anything like that?
You sent me those questions, and I really thought they were good. Looking at one, how can listeners improve their lives and our businesses incorporating your knowledge, services, and products. One thing that I do notice that especially small businesses and startups, they neglect how important marketing is. It can be something as small as word of mouth to paid advertising on Google or Facebook and Instagram. It's so essential. Even I've seen businesses have a grand opening and there's so much hype. There's a line around the corner. And then within months, within 3 months, that there nobody's walking in the door because they don't strike while the iron's hot. They don't continue that momentum. They
Yeah,
don't keep it going. And so that's it's just important to always be and then just being repetitive. Just having to be very repetitive about the intention and your brand. That's very important.
It's dating, right? Like, you can't just let up once you've got it in the bag. Like, you gotta keep dating the person you're with and courting them.
yep,
Exactly. With
yep,
dating or in a long-term relationship, in a marriage, you have to it's work. You have to constantly be nurturing it. Yeah. It's
very
exactly right.
true.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people forget about that part too, like, no matter what industry, really, you have to build a brand, and a lot of people don't realize that they are their brand, and I
Mhm.
think maybe that's what a lot of business owners struggle with as well.
Yeah, so much so for small business, there's really not like even in the financials, there's not a clear line or differentiation between what's personal and what's business. They take their business very personal because it directly impacts their personal lives. And so I
Mhm.
think the brands that do best, and Cindy, you can let me know if I'm way off base here, but the ones that I've seen do best are the ones that stay true to their own personal, what they value and what they cherish. And if they're able to build on that and build their business according to their own values and background and goals, then it really, you know, I think buyers see that and they can feel when it's authentic.
That's right. Yes, especially with AI, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere and it's just going to grow from there. So I did this workshop with some freelancers last night and there was a copywriter and her business is growing because the value she brings to a business is not sounding like everybody else. She was
Yeah.
saying she had a client ask her, "Why does everything sound the same? I'm scrolling through Instagram and it all has the same voice, it all has the same tone, and it's Chat GPT." Some people tweak it a little bit, but n not enough. It has all the same information and basically the same voice, but there isn't a real personality there. And so she brings her writing talent and personality, and she takes the time to get to know her clients and learn their personality and the way that they speak and the jokes that they tell and their sense of humor. And then she puts that into their social media. And that's really important. Like, it's really important to just be authentic, be yourself, be the human being that you are. Because as we move into the future, you'll see a lot of brands and businesses move away from that because they are depending on AI a little too much.
Yeah. 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 I have a question. So, like, what stage? So I feel like marketing to me is how financials are to most other business owners. Like, I'm just dumb in this area. I don't know. I don't know it well. And when I do know, I'm like, I am literally just seeing other stuff. And I'm like, oh, I like that. I like that. Trying to replicate it. So like in the first year, I had no idea like what my brand identity would be or what colors I wanted to use. I had a logo and I picked one that I could mold to different things for that purpose. 'Cause I have no clue where I'm going with this. It's like what stage or like what time period should small business owners who are just starting out start to think about this stuff? Or like when do you really need to have it locked down? Is there a point of no return? Like, if I choose these colors, this branding, this stuff, and then I'm like, "Ah, I don't like it anymore. How hard is it to completely rehaul that and change everything?"
But that's a really good question. I really respect those companies that have built an empire around their branding and it never changed. They've never changed it because it was such a good brand and it's such a good logo and a brand that they've built around it is so powerful that they don't need to change it, like Coca-Cola, like Nike,
Yep.
Adidas, all of these brands that are even Walgreens, like that it's just good branding, and it was unnecessary to change. Ford is another good one. I could sit here all day long and talk about all of my favorite brands and logos in terms of the imagery, not necessarily the company itself.
It's like household names though.
I've worked with companies that before they even get started, they want to lock down their logo and their branding and their colors and their voice and their book, and they wanna do everything before they even get started, and It's not really necessary. You can just type your name out in Helvetica and this is my company. And if you want to get started, so it's not 100% necessary because I do think there is a space for that, especially if you're a small business, like a freelancer and you need to start making money.
Yeah.
It's fine to not have that. But I say that I got to be careful with saying that because it's not necessarily the smartest thing to do.
Right. There's
I
so much,
just
so many other things too.
Exactly. There's some people put way too much emphasis and thought into that, and then they get, paralyzed. And that paralysis is real. I've experienced it myself, and I am branding and marketing because doing it for somebody else, like, I can market the hell out of anybody's business. But when it came to my and that was like a lesson that I learned as a freelancer. I'm a year and a half in, almost 2 years in, and I'm still learning. And that's what keeps me in this game is I'm loving the learning process. So marketing, selling myself is a different hurdle to climb versus doing it for my clients. I love doing it for other people. I see the magic in their ideas and what they're getting started, and I want to help people. And yet, when it came to selling myself, marketing and sales are two completely different things, and I'm
Yeah.
realizing that. So, sales is something that I want to get better at that I'm working on. But let me get back to the question.
I know, I
Yeah.
totally forgot. What was it?
Getting started with your business. I definitely that is my mission is to take is to find the businesses that that are lost and that feel unorganized and that they feel like paralyzed in the branding and the marketing because they don't know what to do first. And my job is to get to know the company, the client. And from there, we figure out what kind of imagery do you like? Is it something sleek and new wave, or is it something bohemian? We have these conversations. And then from there, once you have a solid logo, I think that can work in whether it's in color or it's in black and white. If it doesn't work in black and white, then it's not a solid logo. And I wholeheartedly believe that. So we start in black and white. And once we've at least gotten going, like we started that race and we're
Yeah.
running and we're at a good pace, then we can start incorporating colors while we're still working on the logo itself. Let's get this started, make sure it's working in black and white, and then we start colors and then and then we finally land on something. And then from there, we start building the brand book. How is it going to look on a t-shirt? How is it going to look on a pen? How is it going to look teeny tiny as your Instagram icon logo?
Yeah.
How is it going to look on a billboard? That kind of thing. And then we start to talk about your brand voice. What is your company mission? What are your values? And then from there, you can see now we're flipping the pages. This is my company's Bible, my brand Bible. A brand book is what we call it. And so from here, once you have this book, then you can take it to any business, any representation of it. So let's say you're getting ready for a trade show. You
Yeah.
can take it to the designer for your trade show booth. You can
Mhm.
take it to any promotional goods company and this is my brand book. This is what I want. And then they can just start pick because I've seen it before where you go to a trade show and then the print is way off. There's like white borders around things, or like, there's a logo with a white square and then
Yeah.
there's no transparency and nobody thought to ask. And I've seen mistakes like that. When you have a brand book, then you have all of your files. I've asked companies before where I'm like, do you have a logo with a transparent background? And then they'll send me, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but they'll send me their logo with a gray and white checkered background. And that's supposed to be the transparent background. It's
Yeah.
usually when you put it into the banner, then it'll bring over the black and white checkerboard with the logo. Means it doesn't have a transparent background. Um, yeah, that happens a lot.
I probably and like you don't realize how you don't even realize that there are so many different types of logos. Like you just mentioned, like the clear background, and then you did one of my logos for me. There's so many the PNG and the JPG, and I don't even know which one I should be using when. I feel like maybe a lot of people are crippled by that too.
Yeah, and then from there, once you have your brand book and you're ready to start marketing, then we build your marketing strategy. What is the roadmap to get from today and the next month? What are your goals for the next month? And then we build the strategy around to make sure that you reach those goals.
Yeah.
So let's say I want to, and that's another thing. A lot of people, when they start freelancing, they want to have their website ready and their social media ready. Everything's like perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to get started. You just
Yeah.
have to start talking, like the marketing part where you're talking to a camera, which is really hard. But
Yeah.
so like building that roadmap so that you see step by step what you need to be doing, the goals that you need to be checking off, the list of things that you need to be checking off. Cause once you have that roadmap, then you'll get to that finish line at the end of month one, as long as you have a professional that can list it all out for you. And so that's what High Reverie does.
Yeah, and I feel like that is so pivotal, that's so key, and, like, a lot of the stuff that we talk about when you're talking about marketing, when we're talking about bookkeeping or financials, when it comes down to it, like, we probably could do it ourselves. When you lay it out like a checklist, we probably could do it ourselves. But ultimately, the day of an entrepreneur is a shit ton of marketing, a shit ton of financial stuff, and then a million other things, and then people giving you good ideas. And it's noise, like it's all noise. So, really, when you hire an advisor in any of these arenas, there's job titles that we're really filling as one person in a business. You're hiring someone to keep you on task. Like, they have done this a million times and now they can keep you focused. They know the exact order these things need to occur in, and they just keep you in check. Hey, calm down. Not all of this needs to be done today. You're right on track. And they're just reassuring you and that wise guide on the journey of entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
it does. It overwhelms the shit out of me, like, seeing stuff on Instagram, and I'll be like, "I wanna do that," but then it is, like, making videos and all that is really hard, and getting in front of the camera is really hard, and I feel like it gets
Claire, you're really good at that.
You're really
Yeah.
good. You do a
well,
great
thank
job.
you, 'cause I'm
Right.
like, I feel like I suck." But,
Yeah.
but I used to, like, I wanted to post videos probably 2 years or a year before I really had started doing that, and I just kept putting it off. "I'm not gonna do it, I'm scared," because I was scared, and
Yeah.
so I just would, "Oh, I'll do it, like, in next month or next week," and
Yeah.
then finally, I was like, "Claire, like, quit being a little bitch and just do it." And so
That's
and
right.
so I did it, and it gets a little bit easier with time, but I feel like it's still the nerves are still there, like, at the very beginning, like, no
Yeah.
matter what.
I went through the same process and I still go through that same process. I have to keep remembering to put on my oxygen mask before I start helping everybody else. It's one of those things. And it's just a muscle that you have to work. And then eventually you'll be I think that you're to the point that you are flexing because it's good. You have good content. And that's like the big thing. Like you're good in front of the camera and you're presenting value to your audience.
Yeah.
The advice that you're giving and the information you're giving is something that every single time I see your face, I'm like, "Oh, I need to hear what she's saying because there's something new I'm learning and should be doing."
I just feel it always feels like, and Summer can probably agree with this, like, just taxes and accounting, and you feel like you're like, "Nobody wants to hear this shit," but really
Mm.
everybody needs to hear it, and they
Yeah.
do need to.
Well, yeah, I think sometimes with financial professionals, we are in the non-sexy part of any business, really. Like, nobody wants to hear this shit. Like, we can get really long-winded. We're not good at delivering information in a small, compact, nicely done piece of data. We want to go on and give people the details. They don't need that shit. They need to know high level what they need to do. And you're really good at really boiling that down to what they need to do that day. And that's what business professionals want. Don't tell me your entire degree. I don't want to know that. If I'm hiring you, I don't want to know what it took to get you to this point. Just give me the high level details and
Yeah.
that's it. Tell me what I need to do today.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's
a
what I
good
love. Yeah, just tell
point.
me what I need to do. I already gotta figure out enough stuff on my own. Just tell me what I need to do. Give me a path, like you said. That is amazing. I love that.
And another thing, definitely people need is freelancers, business owners, everybody has to do taxes, right? Everybody has to do their taxes. If you're getting a W-2, that's one thing. It can be totally easy. You can do it yourself, which I did up until a couple of years ago when I started doing my own thing. And then I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't do this on my own. And that's another thing that I heard Sarah Blakely, the inventor of Spanx.
Yes, I
The
love her. I loved
Yeah.
her master class. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's great. So her number one advice to freelance or business owners is that once you can afford it, hire to your weakness or whatever it is that you don't want to do. And so like for me, that's one thing that I not only do I not how to know how to do it, I don't know the first thing. And so doing my taxes, like that's something that I need. Number one thing.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize too, like you have other things to think about when it comes to obviously wearing all the hats, but then you got like retirement and health insurance because like Social Security is not gonna be a whole lot for any of us.
No,
You know?
it's not going to be there.
And
Right.
no. And it might even be bankrupt by the time.
If you're an entrepreneur, you really like, everybody has a different bootstrapping story, but I cashed out my 401k. I use that to live on as I was making that transition. So my
Same,
retirement is my business, like selling my business. So I got to
same.
get this shit up in value very high, very quick, so that someday I'll be able to not work.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people don't, on the first 5 years in the trenches, you're just like, you don't have time to think that far forward. You're just trying to make shit work, make it run,
Yeah.
and then make it run efficiently. And then when you finally get things running, you're like, okay, now I need to plan for myself, my retirement. So like the personal stuff just gets put off, man. Like it's so hard to plan for that stuff when you're just in the trenches. I feel like that's the best word for it. Like
It was
you're
yeah.
putting out fires every fucking day.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
especially when you're providing services like our businesses are, and not necessarily selling a product. We're selling a service, and so that
Mhm.
we're constantly servicing our clients, and then our own personal stuff, whether it's the business or personal finances, just gets put to the back burner.
it really
A
does. And
common
like
mistake.
what do they say? That's like the
The cobbler's
hairdresser always
kids
has
have
the
no shoes.
shittiest yeah, the shittiest haircut.
Yep. Exactly. The bookkeeper's books get done last, if ever.
Yeah. So, Cindy, what made you decide to branch off on your own thing? What did you ever want to? I've not, I do not want to go back to a day job, like a W-2 job, like ever. When you just made up your mind, or you're just like, all right, this is it. This is what I'm doing. I'm making this work no matter what. Because I feel like that's what I did. I had my business for 7 years before I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm not making this is not like my redheaded stepchild like side gig anymore. Like I am diving in no matter what it takes. And I did too. Like I cashed out my retirement. You know?
Oh,
Here we are. It's still working out. So I feel like, but to go through the miserable part and learn all the lessons, it makes you that much more grateful at the end of it.
Yeah, I love this question because I went to art school, gosh, it's been 20 years now, 20 years ago. And the way that they teach and they train at the school was that just assuming that you're going to be like the starving artist in the beginning and you're going to be freelance and you're going to be your own business. You're going to run your own business doing this. At the time, I was a single parent. And, my son was very young and I was working full time. I was going to school full time and I was a mother full time. It was rough. I loved the idea of doing that. It was very aspirational and it was great as a pipe dream. Like I just didn't see myself doing that because I needed stability. I needed health insurance for myself, for my son. I needed a steady paycheck. And the security of it, just I couldn't walk away from it. And I'm glad I did. I've learned a lot in the process and it was a very challenging experience, but 20, 25 years and now I found myself in a position where I could do it. I didn't cash out any kind of retirement because I didn't have a whole lot of retirement saved up, but I did fairly well after buying and selling 2 condos. And so that money is what's
We
keeping
got
me afloat
started.
for now. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely rough at the beginning for sure. Just going off on your own and finally taking a leap. It's like I would on the most miserable day working for myself is better than any day
That's
working
right.
for somebody else.
That's right.
I struggle with that stability too. Summer, did you like? Because I would have quit my job sooner if I would have known that was going to be able to do it. Like that, it was the fear. I don't think I can do it. I don't
Fear
think.
is an ugly beast.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I think when my kids were younger, I definitely needed the stability. Like you said, Cindy, like there's a certain age where you're like, I cannot risk it. They're fully dependent on you. But I didn't have as much fear once they were old enough to take care of themselves, where if shit really hit the fan, like everyone's getting a job. We'll all go work at McDonald's or something. But once they got older, it actually compelled me. Like it was part of the reason why I wanted to do this because I didn't want my fear. And kids are very intelligent beings. I didn't want my fear rubbing off on them, my limitations, my mental whatever block keeping
Yeah.
me from doing something amazing or taking a bet on myself. I didn't want that to seep into their brains and think that they couldn't do something. I wanted them to see me either do something amazing or fail wildly, whatever it was. When you start a business, you have to come to terms with the fact that you might fail. And you could be the best business person in the world. There's just times where there's economic downturns. Maybe you are picking the wrong career field. Maybe you're picking the wrong market at the wrong time. There's things that are beyond your control. So you're really putting your ass on the line. And you
Yeah.
have to come to terms with the fact that you could fail. So failure is like an ever present, like beast right next to you saying, hey, I'm still here in case you forgot. But if you become friends with them, that beast like helps you motivate you to push you forward and make sure that you do everything in your power not to fail. But I think the important thing is not letting it dictate your decisions. And I really wanted the kids to see that I wasn't going to be paralyzed by that fear.
Yeah. I love
Is it
this.
failure or is it a
The
lesson, you know?
lesson, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always just a lesson. When you look back in time and the struggles that you had, you're like, "Now I see exactly why I had to go through that or that had to happen
Yeah.
for me to get
Yeah.
here."
I think that's the cool thing. We get to touch some as service providers, like all of us, we get to touch so many businesses and whether we're advising them or not, we're learning those lessons that they're going through too. So not only in our businesses and the things that we've messed up or had to learn the hard way, others go through things and taking those with us and pocketing those. And hopefully that's what this podcast does. It talks about some things that happen in the trenches and the front lines and keeps people from doing it. But that saying, you never step in the same river twice. You'll never create the same business twice. You could become a serial entrepreneur and the game is going to change every single time. So
Yeah.
that's something that kind of, I don't know, it's exciting to me because think my love language is problem solving. So there's always problems in business.
Yeah.
If you start a new one, you're going to have a whole new bag of challenges. And I think that's why I like late in life diagnosed ADHD. Like now I'm like, oh my God, all this like career history makes sense. It makes sense why I want to go in business for myself because I'm pretty much unemployable.
Exactly how I feel about myself.
Yeah. I've thought through the years, I've thought about it so much where when there was sleepless nights, blood, sweat, and tears, and then just wondering, what is this for? It's not for me. Like, why am I doing this to myself? But now it's the same thing. Sleepless nights, blood, sweat, and tears, but now it's going to bite my bottom line. And that feels
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Somebody had this saying, I'd rather work for myself and make 70,000 a year than work for a company at 150,000 a year. I definitely want to make more than that, but I get it. Because like when personal stuff in your life does happen, you're not asking permission to go do stuff. You're really like your day is as flexible as you are. You get to choose your own adventure every single day. Sometimes that's a boon. That's not a good thing all the time, but I think
Yeah.
for the most part, not having a schedule has helped my creative processes.
Yeah. I would say so too. And it's always the worst case scenario, like I was gonna mention earlier too, like the worst case scenario of your business not working out, you could just go back to work. Like the same shit you were doing before you started the business. So it's like the worst case is really not that bad.
Yeah, I like the and I've been fortunate to meet a lot of serial entrepreneurs. Some are like you were saying, and that to me sounds like a better idea than actually going back to work. It did, like it happened to me a few months ago where it's not that I was in the market to get a job, but something just popped up and somebody was recommending me for a position, and it really messed with my brain, like my mindset. And it was like it over several of not quite a couple weeks, but, like, over several days, it really messed with my mindset in terms of, like, my business. And then I finally just said, "What am I doing? I'm not gonna do that. I'm doing this." And then that just poof, it was gone.
Yeah.
Like, the all the anxiety around it.
So
Yeah.
what was it about the job like made that caused the anxiety? Was it like a really like good job? listing or like
It was
something
it
that
was
was
it was a
connected?
yeah, it was a possibility to be a good position. It was in the cannabis industry, which I really wanted to stay in, but again, it was like one of those positions where it's like meshing marketing and sales, and like I said, marketing is not sales, and if you don't understand that, then probably don't wanna be working for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And sales is, oh my gosh, every single business struggles with sales. Sales is the number one. If you don't have sales, you're going to die. Your business will die. And I think, man, accountants, we're really bad at this. We're really bad at
Yeah.
selling ourselves.
Yeah.
But I'm finding out it's not just us, it's like everyone.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah,
Everyone
but
but salespeople.
yeah, yeah, and that's true. That's true. Like salespeople, I feel like it for them. Like I have friends, really good friends that are salespeople and have been their entire life, and it's a personality trait. It really is. I consider myself to be an introvert or maybe like an extroverted introvert. I don't know. I can speak to anyone about things that I'm passionate about, but really at the end of the day, okay. So for example, I was at a trade show a couple of months ago where I spent the entire day hanging out with a couple of people that I wanted to do business with. And at the end of the day, I came home and Jason was like, "Hey, how'd it go? Tell me about it." And I was like, "I don't want to talk until tomorrow." Not you, I just don't wanna say anything anymore.
You're an omnivert.
I
Oh, it's
haven't heard of that.
yeah, and an extroverted introvert. It re-energizes me, but then I like to go back into my little hermit shell.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that hermit shell is it can be dangerous though because it can be a long time before I peek my head back out, and then,
Same.
things are in trouble.
Same. Do you have any advice for business owners out there?
Yeah, especially for freelancers like us, you have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. And I always feel better when I do. And that means like going to the trade shows, finding your local business owners association and going to their events. I am so fortunate that there's one in my neighborhood that is very active. They have like
Yeah.
monthly coffee meetings, they have monthly wine meetings where after hours
Yeah.
everybody gets together. It's just a very active group of people and they're all wonderful. Just finding things like that, finding gatherings, networking events that you can go and be a part of because even though it's not really about selling, nobody wants to be sold to. So that's what salespeople do, right? The good ones aren't constantly selling themselves or something or whatever. They're just nice. They're just friendly people and people want to be around them. That's selling yourself is when you are being yourself and you're being friendly and you're having engaging conversations and you're listening to the room. You can see why people are there and what they're trying to say and the message that people are trying to put out there. If you're listening, then that makes you a good salesperson. And then it's also like talking about the value that you bring in terms of as CPAs and tax accountants. That's that's a very valuable skill that you guys have. And I definitely see it. That's talking to people about the value that you bring versus I can do your taxes. I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah.
And that to like that people we're just going to see a fog between themselves and you because they don't understand it.
Definitely struggle with that because I'm always like, yeah, I can do your taxes.
Yeah. And, like, the car that I have, I will drive that car until it no longer runs. In fact, before I drove it, like, my son got rear-ended and they totaled out my old 2001 Honda Civic. It was old and it was still running though, and I wasn't interested in buying another car.
Yeah.
Then he got rear-ended. They totaled out my car. I had to buy a new one, but because I live in Atlanta and you can't, it's not they love the traffic here, but I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna see how long I can go without buying another car," because there's one thing I don't wanna do, and that is go to a car lot.
Get another
I
car.
hate those guys, and I mean, no offense if you sell cars, that good for you, that's great, but I do not like being I feel like it's like predatory.
Swooping around.
Yeah,
Yeah, like,
yeah,
they don't even let you get out of your car, and you're like, "Just let me
yeah.
look at this, just let me
But
check this
lock
car
eyes with
out."
you. They're awesome.
I no, so I ended up going 2 months in the summer this was summertime. So 2 months I went without buying another car because like I was like, I don't want to do it. And so I would walk a mile to our train station, the MARTA, and I would walk a mile there, get on the train, and then I'd be there and it's like sweating. I'm dripping in sweat. But then I'd get on the train. They've got air conditioning. I'd get to the next station by the office I was working at. And then I would walk another mile and a half to the office. I
Oh
should have
my
gotten a scooter, is what I should have gotten. That I
Street
could have probably
swag.
gone 6 months with a scooter without a car. But anyway, I would show up to work. I don't even know what I was smelling like, but it was like dripping in sweat. And so I lasted 2 months, and then finally I went and I was like, "All right, I gotta get a car." And sure enough, it was exactly like what I was dreading.
What you're anticipating, yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, the MARTA is fucking sketch.
It's not. It is what the worst part about our subways, the MARTA, is that, and I've lived here for 40 years now, and it just goes from, we have two rail lines, north and south,
Yeah.
and
And they're
each
different.
track.
Like, they're different. There's MARTA and there's something else. You have, like, to connect to different ones. Like, you can't
No.
just buy a MARTA pass. You have to buy something else and then they connect. It was super confusing when I went.
Yeah, it depends on where you are. So if you're like on the outskirts outside of the perimeter, which is 285, the highway that goes around the city. So if you're like in Sandy Springs or Marietta or Clayton County, like they have their own transit systems that connect with MARTA.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but like the subway itself, like we have a lot of bus lines, but the train line, the subway itself is just north and south and east and west. And as if you've ever been to New York or Washington, D.C., like it's a very robust system. And it just makes me very jealous when I go to these cities and they have such a great rail system and we just have north, south, east, and west. If you need to get somewhere northeast, you're screwed. If you're going to be sitting in traffic. You're like,
Yeah.
You
You gotta
know.
get there and then take an Uber to get to where you're going or something.
So I was just lucky enough that I lived and worked within a mile and a half from a station.
Yeah, but what, in the hot summer months of Atlanta? So that's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
That would have probably lasted like 2 weeks.
It was brutal. But yeah,
So
I
you're
mean, I am very stubborn. But that's how I got, like, when I finally did go to the dealership, I had some money saved up from the last job that I had. They used to give us great bonuses. So like I would just squirrel it away. And then I had cash to buy a car. And so I went to the dealership and I was like, this is how much I have to spend. I'm not going to spend more than this. And that's the car that I want. And it was not that much. It was like just a matter of a couple of $1,000s of a difference. He kept me there for 6 hours. "Oh, I'm gonna go talk to my manager. Oh, my
Oh my
manager came
god.
back with this. Let me," and then he wrote it down on a piece of paper and he slid it across the table and I looked at it and I'm like, this is still not what I said. You're just wasting my time." And then he leaves and comes back like 3 or 4 times. And then I looked at my ex who at the time, I asked him to go with me because I was like, I need some testosterone to be there with me because I don't know what kind of fiery hoops are gonna make me jump through, and I feel like if I have a guy there with me, then it'll be less. He was completely useless. He didn't say anything the whole time. And then when the last time they left the room, I looked at him, I said, "They're gonna give me this car for what I'm offering." And he said, "How do you know?" And I said, "Because we've been here for 6 hours. If I walk away not buying, because 'cause I'm, totally okay with not buying a car.
Yeah.
I'll leave and take MARTA, but he needs to sell me this car. He's already wasted 6 hours on me. He's gonna give it to me." And then he did.
Course, but, it's just like, dude, you could have made, like, 3 sales at this point. See, I don't understand why they have to slide the paper and it's like,
So
just tell me what the
cheesy.
damn number is.
So, yeah, back to my point is that nobody wants to feel like they're being sold to. Everybody wants to feel like they had the great idea to make this purchase. Like they
Mhm.
see the value in it. They've talked themselves into it. They've done the research. They have come to the conclusion that this is the thing that they want to spend their money on. And it's a wise decision. And so that's marketing. That's a good salesman can do that. Marketing will do that. Like you have to make sure that then, and marketing is just repetition. Just make sure that you're showing up on your audience's feed with good advice, tax advice.
I know that I definitely judge businesses and probably more so in the accounting industry. If you're an accounting firm and you're trying to offer advisory services, like you're trying to advise other small businesses on how to run their business, and you got this old ass, janky ass website and you're marketing shit, like I'm not going to trust you to advise me or anybody
Yes.
else. You're not looking at your business holistically. If you're leaving that huge piece out of your own practice, like I definitely judge when I see like marketing that's all over the place or it's not succinct or they don't even have a logo
Oh,
or a brand or their website. the big one is like for accounting firms that I see a lot is like
Domain.
the website sucks. It is
Mhm.
old.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like just like the domain and how important a domain is. Like Cindy at High Reverie or Claire at tinkleraccounting.com, Summer at dope.cpa. If I'm just like Claire at tinkleraccounting at Gmail, you just, how much better that looks and
Pay the
how
$30 a month to get a real account.
yes. And it feels more trustworthy and like they actually care about their business. So at
If
least
you can't
that's
put $30 a month into your own damn business, put that much skin in the game, like, how is
yeah, if
anybody
you
else
already
supposed to
got the
trust you?
website, just go all the way. It's
Exactly. Yeah,
and
no, that's a huge thing that and definitely put that on blast. So many businesses do that, whether it's restaurants or tax accounts. Like
names.
they just depend on their Facebook page to be their website. And
Ugh.
by the way, all
Great.
social media is rented. Mm. Especially like you guys know, you guys are in the cannabis industry. Your social media can be poof, gone in a
Yeah,
matter of seconds, and you don't
Oh,
no
yeah.
explanation
it's
why, no
all
Right.
gone.
warnings, nothing, gone. All of your hard work, all of your efforts, just gone,
Yep.
including your handle. You can't ask to access that handle if you want to restart another one. You have to come up with a new name. Yeah, always have your website. And then I'm not trying to shit on social media. Like that's also a thing that's not going anywhere anytime soon. And so you need it, but you need it to be feeding your website. Like
Mhm.
your website is where you want people to go. And so your social media is just a small vehicle that's driving people to the main event, which is your website.
Yeah, yeah. I think people lose sight of that. Like when I'm posting, sometimes I'm just trying to get content out to stay present in people's minds.
Yeah.
The goal of the content is not to make a sale on social media. That's never going to happen. If it does, whatever, but that'll be a great day. But the goal of the social media piece is to get people to your website,
Yep.
to
Yep.
get them to book a call so
Yep.
they
Yep.
can meet you and see your personality and build the authenticity that is you, that you're
Yep.
actually selling. Because you're not selling your service or your product, you are, but what people pull the trigger on is when they meet you, when they see that you're passionate about what you do. I think that's when people are like, all right, hell yes, I'm in.
Yeah, I always tell people think of it in terms of like home ownership versus renting an apartment. Ownership versus rental space. So that's yeah, social media, rental space, home ownership is your website. Just keep driving
Exactly.
everything, all of the attention that you're getting from social media, direct it to your website.
Yep. That's what I mean. That's where all the analytics and the data and everything comes from. And we all know a good Google review is better than a review that people have just posted on their website. It's got the good and the bad. Of course, everybody's always only going to post the good reviews on their website.
Yeah.
Do you like
Oh, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
There's one question I always like to ask, and I was going to give us like the ending, but if you have one, go ahead.
Who me?
Yeah. Wait, were you?
Oh, I was just no, I was just gonna tell Cindy has this amazing Spotify playlist and her newsletter that she has released is awesome. I love it, Cindy. I am so proud of you for that.
Thank
It
you.
looks it's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my first newsletter, and I was so nervous about it. Put out another one this week, and then I've got another one. I already have an idea for the next one, so I'm really excited about that. And just reaching out and communicating through my newsletters. But that Spotify playlist, it was definitely a distraction that started for me like a month and a half ago. Oh, like Halloween's coming, and so I started just building this playlist, but now it's, oh man, I don't even have any kind of, I don't, there's no massive attack. There's no Portishead. Like, oh my, what was I thinking? And so I've already started distracting myself with a New Year's playlist, which will still be dark and lovely because that's just who I am.
But that's why we love you.
What platform are you doing your newsletter on?
Clavio,
Okay.
Klaybio.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think I've heard of that.
And you have to be careful too. You guys are ancillary businesses, so that shouldn't matter much. But with a name like Dope CPA in your logo, it might come up where I know there's some newsletter platforms that are not cannabis friendly. So yeah, look out for that. I know Clavio is. So yeah, that's
Okay.
another thing to be careful about.
Yeah. I've used like Flowdesk and Constant Contact and another one I can't remember, but None of them really stuck. I didn't really like any of them. They don't give you enough. They're all like pre-made templates. You can't really change much on them.
Yeah.
Um, but you
That's
like
like
Klaviyo?
I do, yeah, and it's free up until, like, your, like, 500 recipients,
Mm.
and it's very powerful when it comes to showing you analytics and everything, so, yeah, it's really good.
okay. Do you have anything cool coming up that you want to tell us about?
No, I haven't signed any contracts with some coaches that I've been looking at. Not necessarily coaches, but that was gonna help me develop some programs.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm not really comfortable talking about it just yet, but, yeah, I do have some things coming up. I've been going to these workshops. I think I put you in contact with Haley with
Yeah.
Freelance Unlocked, and, yeah, like, the workshop that I went to just last night was hers that she was hosting, and she's a great freelance coach. But, yeah, just basically helping me harness the power of just instead of thinking of it in terms of selling my services, communicating my value.
Yeah.
And I think when like along the same vein of like the authenticity piece, there's a CFO speaker that I watch and follow because he's really great at what he does. And he was talking about how even when he started, he's done hundreds, thousands of speaking events. He said, even when I started, I was nervous and I still get nervous and that just doesn't go away. But one thing I always try to tell myself as I'm about to go deliver the information is what is my intention when I'm trying to deliver the information or communicate your value, and your intention is to help. So your intention is pure and it's authentic and it's really to help that client. And if we can focus on that instead of, I've got to make this sale or I've got to get this person to like me or I've got to communicate my value very effectively. If we focus on what is my goal, what is my intention with this client, and that's to help them, I think at the forefront of our minds, they're able to see that's what we're genuinely trying to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll even end a sales call with, hey, look, if you end up going with someone else, that is perfectly okay. But we do want to watch your growth. We want you to succeed. We understand this is business. We're
Mhm.
not going to win 100%. We're not going to have that type of game, but we want you
Yeah.
to succeed, regardless of whether it's with us or not. And that's the kind of intention that we have, and the kind of thing I try to keep in mind when I'm talking to people. When I start to get nervous, I like this client. I want to make this sell. First and foremost, I want them to do well, whether that's with me or without me.
Yeah. And you're always there for them no matter what. Like, it's a genuine connection. It's not, I don't want to talk to them anymore. If they were to come back to you after the fact, you would love to help them out with whatever it is. And so I think that's, like you said, the authenticity, being genuine and just being your true self. That's when people can really tell.
Yeah. What I really like also is what I really like about what you guys have done or what you guys are doing is that you guys have joined forces because one thing that and I know it's going to happen regardless of what industry you're in and what profession you're in, that the competition obviously has to be there. I like to call it friendly competition, but what I really like about what you guys have done is join forces to help build each other up. And what I always like to say is there's room here for all of us. Everyone has a place here at the table when it
Yeah.
comes to freelancing and doing your own thing. So I really admire you guys for doing that.
Change, yeah. I think
Look,
pretty early I realized I could like even with it, like we're in a pretty specific space, right? Like cannabis, finance, very specific, very
Yeah.
niche. But even within that, like Claire does taxes and I do accounting and gap and accrual stuff. Um, so I learned very early that I can't do the stuff Claire does. Not I could probably muddle through it, but then I'd be fucking over my client. So and
yeah,
I don't want to
same
do
with
that.
vice
So
versa.
and then some of
Yeah.
our financial advisors. I don't do that. I do more like CFO level stuff, but I like to refer out work because I think having a well-rounded team, when you're hiring one firm, but you've also got a team behind you, you feel very supported and you'll be successful. So I think early, if you are able to collaborate and find those people that kind of complement what you're doing, that's just how I viewed it anyways. And we're working on something else in our coaching program that hopefully will bring up other aspiring accounting firm owners where we can nurture those firm owners. It's not really solid yet, but hopefully we'll be able to raise some other people up too.
Yeah. Because we're all better when we come together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of trying to instead of going the cutthroat route and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's really just jealousy, but it's jealousy that is unnecessary. That's why it's just There's no point in fighting and hating each other.
No, we've all got different war stories that we could
Yep.
really help each other with, and honestly, and there's some firms that that really want, like, they want all the business. I don't. Very selective. Like, I want about we talked about this at NECAM. I want about 10% of the business. Like, very particular about who I want to bring on because to me, it's a long-term relationship. There are other firms that they market different. Like, their business model is a little different. They pump out, they want to do it at a large scale, and that means they need many clients and they have to do it for cheap. And
Yep.
that's their business model. That's not mine though.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep. That's why we're different. Is there anything else, Summer? Did you have something else you wanted to add?
Yes. So I'm coming up with a boot startup Bible, things that we all wish we knew when we started. And of course, you can't put everything in there. But if you were to start your business all over again, what's one thing that you learned since starting that you wish you had known before going into it?
Oh gosh, there's so
Oh,
many things.
I was about to say there's so many
Yeah.
else.
So many lessons learned and still learning. Let's see. Again, with the make sure that your oxygen mask is secure before helping others.
Yes.
Have a self-care plan. Like you're going to have
Mm,
to pull that emergency ripcord to for safety because you're going to have those days where it's a roller coaster and in one day you could have overcome so many different adversities. And so have that self-care plan in place, like practice, a self-care practice. And by practice, have a consistent method that you are going to, because you're going to need that. Whether it's like just shutting everything off, lighting a candle and taking a deep breath, or go putting on your running shoes, going for a run, or I don't necessarily recommend retail therapy, but if that works for you, if you got it like that, have a plan in place. That's definitely a big one, and then just paying attention to your mindset. Like I was talking about earlier when there was, like, that job opportunity, and it completely broke down my freelance mindset, and it wasn't until, like, I decided, "No, I don't what am I doing? I don't want any part of that. I don't want a W-2. I don't want a 9 to 5. I don't wanna work for anybody else. I want to make High Reverie happen, or I wanna work for myself." When I shifted that mindset, like, the few days that I had before that just melted away, and I wasn't stressing about it anymore. Definitely just be mindful of your mindset.
Yeah, and
that is
not just when
that's
you feel
such
like you have time, because I always
yeah.
like the self-care thing. I'll do that whenever I have time for it, but then I never have time. So you
Mhm.
have to make time for that.
Yeah, you have to put it up front sometimes. Otherwise it'll hit you
Never get done.
one day.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's such good advice. I definitely wish I had thought about that. I didn't have a great self-care routine before starting a business. So when I started it, it was like a
Same.
year before I was like, I need to start like doing stuff for myself. I need
Yeah.
to start
Yeah.
leaving the house.
Yeah.
And you get caught up in the trap because you're like, oh shit, I don't have time for myself. And then you're like, wait, I don't have time for myself. And then then you're like, okay, and you restart your good habit.
Yeah, and then you realize, "Oh, yeah, I feel better because I did
Yeah.
this." Another thing that I would the third thing I would say is talk to a tax accountant because there's so many mistakes that I made, and I'm like, "What am I" like, and then I finally I remember I was talking to a business coach, and she was asking me about my tax account, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't have one." Like, I did my taxes this year, they're done, but there was issues with it, and she was like, "Those are not normal issues," and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." And and then she was like, Yeah, you should hire one." And then when I first spoke to Claire, she was like, "Ooh, your face was like, ugh."
Can't hide the facial expression.
I'm like, oh man, I didn't realize that. But let's
No,
take
you
it
I mean, I'm joking. You were
away and fix that.
always very professional, but yeah, there were so many mistakes that I made because I just didn't know.
Your tax accountant didn't tell you.
No.
They did whatever and just sent you on your way. They didn't explain anything to you. They didn't tell you why they were doing it for your S corporation. They didn't tell you why they did that. And so that's why you
Yeah,
don't know
that's
those types of things and the board of advisor meetings and nobody like not any CPA that I've ever worked for ever told me and their clients any of that. Like your board of advisor meetings and mileage. Make sure you track your mileage and your business use of home. Nobody tells you anything. It's just after the fact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it baffles me that there are so many. Or well, like to speak to both sides, like there is some scope creep that we have to keep out of our business because we sell time. But it takes 2 seconds to just have a conversation with your client and say, "Hey, this is why the S corp was the best way to go for you." Because like crazy enough as it is, if you tell your client these things, they give you more information where you're like, oh, maybe it wasn't the best idea because you have all this other stuff going on. So, like, when you
Yep.
start to tell them these things, they have all the knowledge of their business. They're like, I have these other things going on that
And you're
you
like,
didn't know
oh
about because you're
shit.
only my part
Yeah.
time accountant. So, like,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to have like,
Exactly.
you have to
Yeah.
have a dialogue. Crazy. That still happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
It's one of those things you're going to have to do. You can't escape it. There's death and taxes. That's all there
yeah.
is.
Yep. You gotta, and you definitely don't want to screw around with it. I hate to say that, but you don't want to just let it fall by the wayside and not do it. Or it's not something that you can just, oh, I forgot about it, because you're going to eventually want to get in, buy an asset or purchase a vehicle or a house or a business building or whatever it may be. So you can't run from it forever. But so many business owners do. It's insane. And they don't realize that IRS is calculating that tax on that 1099, not that 1099 and then your deduction.
Yep. And oh my God, those fees add up so fast. The amount of interest they charge, I only owed for what month? 10 months. I had to pay all my taxes for 2023.
Oh,
It was a
shit.
large amount for a single person. So I had to come up with a payment plan or whatever. But the amount of interest that a student has
Interest.
at certain
Yeah. Oh my
times, oh
God.
my
It's
God.
insane. It's
Yeah.
so
Well,
insane.
just like you're talking about the value you provide, like when you, I think it was one of yesterday's post or today's post, you talked about how much should you be putting away. And I was like, okay, let me get my note. I'm taking notes. I'm like, oh, 33%. Okay, 33%
Yeah,
from now
and when you think about it, you're like, "Holy shit, that is a lot of your money just being eaten away in taxes." Because you have, you've got your, like, income tax rate, and then you've got your state income tax rate, and then you've got self-employment tax, and net income, and net investment income tax, and sorry, y'all, and Affordable Care Act tax. There's so many different ones.
It's expensive to be a business owner.
on. Yep.
Is there anything else? I'm like, I could sit here and talk for
I
days.
know. Any advice in terms of for freelancers, what like any tax advice, like what should they be doing over the next couple of months to get ready for 2025 for tax
I'll say
season?
on accounting side, if you don't have a bookkeeper, which like a lot of small businesses don't, that's fine. Start cleaning things up now. Go through all your bank statements and look for anything that could be an expense. If you don't have a bookkeeper, there's an app called Flyfin. It does a really great job of going through all your transactions that you link to it and identifying like what could potentially be a business deduction. It'll compile that data. You can send it to Claire and that'll make your life a whole lot easier. But it'll also give you estimates. So it'll tell you what your estimated taxes are. And then you can start to prepare like, all right, I'm going to owe 15 grand this year. Like you got to start saving up for that. And, or get with Claire to figure out how to budget for that next year or the payment plan process or whatever. But if
Yeah.
you're a little bit bigger than that, like Claire probably could give advice on if you have some extra cash laying around, how to spend that money in order to reduce your tax liability.
Yeah. Just things like, do you want to go ahead and start up any retirement accounts and strategize that way before the end of the year? And you do still have until April of next year to set that up for this year. Health insurance, start getting all your mileage together, things like that. Because you forget about like your home office expenses and any board of advisor meetings you had throughout the year. You're like, oh shit, I forgot, but I did have one, or I actually had 4 this year instead of 3. People forget about that. It happens quite often. Or I didn't keep track of my mileage throughout the year. But it's good to start now. So at least you have a good solid 2.5 months. If you didn't have mileage for the beginning of the year, you didn't track it. But we're telling you now and you're thinking about it now, like that's one good thing to do is you still have 2.5 months to track it. And if it's the same routine every day or for the most part, then you already know what that mileage is for the rest of the months that you don't have it or you didn't track it.
Is it better to track mileage versus fuel charges?
It really just depends on the person and their vehicle and their situation because you've got to have both of them, to be honest, because you need to know which method is more advantageous and is mileage better or is a percentage of your business mileage percentage of your actual expenses. So you still need to have your mileage for that anyways.
Okay.
Or they can just do like standard rate. What is it, like 57 cents?
Yeah, that would just be the mileage. So you just take I think it's 67 cents for this year.
Oh, it's 67 now?
Uh huh.
See,
Do
this
you
is why I
have
don't do taxes.
is there I wanna
We
say
got
there's
to,
an app that you could
yeah.
have that would record your mileage, that way you don't have to keep up with it every time you get in your car, is that true?
Yeah, Mile IQ is really good at tracking it's like Tinder for your miles, honestly, like, you swipe left for personal and right for business or something
That's
like
how
that.
life in is.
Yeah, so it tracks all your trips and everything. Obviously, you have to, allow it to do that, but it does. I think it's like $15 a month, which is obviously an expense, but yeah, I don't use Mile IQ anymore, but or Mileage IQ, whatever it is, but it's really good. I do recommend that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to if we can compile all of the links
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything we
on
mentioned, we'll put
Yeah.
a link in.
Yeah,
okay.
definitely. We're gonna do that, and we're gonna put, like, show notes in your bio and everything.
That's exciting.
Yeah. But thank you
Yeah.
so much, Cindy, for coming on and being a host on our
You're welcome.
podcast.
I'm honored. Thank you for asking me.
Yes, and,
Yeah, it was so good to see you again.
Yeah, you
yes,
too.
we'll put your Instagram handle and do you have a Facebook page?
I do. Yes.
Alright, we'll put all your social links in the description, and yeah, we look forward to seeing what you got coming because it sounds like you got a lot of good stuff coming our way.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get started.
Yes.
So I might
Alright.
say to hell with all of my plans this weekend and work too.
Well,
That's
The joys of
definitely
business ownership. Yeah.
yeah.